What was it you wanted to talk to me about?
I can see that you are a busy man, Irishman. I can provide you with the tools you need to conduct your personal business.
Yeah? Like what?
Anything you need. Bombs, ammunition, explosives, I supply designs to manage yourself discreetly and at a very reasonable price.
Right, I was supposed to take the question, Jack.
I'm afraid not.
How do you expect me to get these wares of yours?
Of course. German military supplies are best. There are Nazi installations all over the city. You will need heavy firepower to destroy them. Explosives, perhaps. My dealers offer you credit for any equipment you can salvage. German officers are another source of contraband. Of course, you'll have to kill them first. You can trade the contraband to my dealers for weapons and ammunition, even vehicles. I have people stationed all over the city 24 hours a day.
Let me guess. I'll need to pay a fee to join this little club of yours.
Well, yes, just a small donation to cover my expenses. Consider it an investment in your future. My friend Pierre here will provide you with a few things to get you started. Free of charge, of course.
This is just an example of one of the many different types of hiding spots you'll find scattered around the world. The fuel depot has been
we use the black and white to represent the occupation in the world, and because just putting Nazis in a colorful Paris world, it just didn't feel right. Like they felt kind of out of place. So when an area's been inspired, it's color. And so what you'll see is we're at a resistance headquarters in Paris at a real park called the Bois de Boulogne. We have all the monuments and landmarks of Paris in there. It's a scaled down version of the map, but everything is there, and so everything's closer than it actually is. So we're like, wow, what a cool concept. Let's make a game based off of that. So what you'll see is he's driving now into the black and white world, what we call the low world of fight. And what will happen in the game is when you do these big missions, the color will then bleed back out into these areas. And you're not liberating areas, you're more inspiring the world. Because what will happen is, I mean, the Nazis are still in control. They're still the occupying force of France. And then everything has such like a personality and flavor. So we built our buildings out of like Lego pieces, really, so we could swap them out and literally give every block and everything you see kind of its own bit of personality to it. So every block in the building is unique, essentially, in the game. So Sean's got an objective here. It's really simple. He's got to blow up this giant cannon, and they didn't really install this giant cannon in Paris. I like to say we're more historically inspired, you know, and we're kind of going for that big like Indiana Jones feeling. It's more over the top. We have things like Zeppelins in our game, which were decommissioned, but they're cool, you know, and then fun.
I mean, Medal of Honor, even, you know, the original one, they got away with some fictional stuff wrapped around it.
You should make things a little more interesting that way and just kind of push it a little bit. So what he did here is he beat that Nazi up and he took his disguise. This is one of the ways you can get through the game, is actually by stealing disguises. And kind of like we employ this concept of what we call quiet in, loud out. So the idea is that it's better for the player to go in quietly and break a neck and wear a disguise. And then when the big objectives happen and you're having to flee, to actually, like, that's when you're kind of run and shooting your way through Nazis or stealing cars. But one thing that's really fun to show with this mission is kind of showing how you can use the Parisian buildings as part of the combat and show the flamethrowers and things like that. So we really wanted to have a lot of different weapons, and the flamethrower is such a great piece of like iconography of the war. And we have a huge variety of weapons, all the classic. To Paris, to a coastal town in events. So what you'll see here is made it very fluid, so you're not being like stuck inside of the cover.
5 Minuten. Hydraulic System auf Maximalkapazität.
Peterson, Goodyear, Arizona.
We wanted that like classic plunger kind of fantasy, but the reality is they had to lay wires and it was really boring. It'd be such a tedious mechanic. So we kind of made a remote detonation device that kind of combined that idea together. So he's going to blow up his big objective here, and you'll see basically like kind of the high concept of what happens with the world. Nice. Leak out into the world. And so what'll happen is the people will start returning to almost like their pre-war lives, and they'll be out on the streets. More, the farmers markets will be open, and like I said, the real key to that becomes the resistance. And so you drag Nazis into those areas, have shootouts, the resistance will start popping out and fighting alongside you.
Now, my question is, that just seems like awesome. Like, what happens now in this area now that you've completed that mission? You say that there's people come out. What do I get any kind of mission types out of that area anymore, or is that done?
So no, there's still, one of the things that'll happen is still, some of the things still exist, like the towers and stuff that I was talking about. Like there's one over on your right. Oh, actually here's something we always like to do. You know, we wanted to have the Zeppelins. There's a main story arc of Sean's vengeance quest throughout the story. Fight as well. So there's literally something to do pretty much all the time in the game.
We got time for more. How about his progression through the game? I mean, we obviously see him pulling out these rocket launchers and stuff, and you've talked about some of the weapons and some of the other items you can get a hold of. Any character progression as we see him go through?
So there's definitely a character progression system, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but even just our hero's story, we wanted to have progression to it. And so he starts off as this, he doesn't care about the war, the politics of it. He just cares about racing, and he cares about his friends. And when his friend dies, that's literally his motivation for everything. But by the end of the game, he starts to kind of buy into the cause and become like a true hero.
What else we got here? I think we got time to know, is it possible to ever get on a Zeppelin?
Yes, absolutely. Like, I mean, that was kind of, actually it's one of the earliest fantasies when we're like, we want to put the Zeppelins in the game. And there's a couple spots where we actually, so we have the little ones that we fly around. We nicknamed them Zeppy around the team. They're kind of our pet Zeppelins. And those are small.